And we are, as they say, live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
And we're back. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Wow, good. Another week. Yeah, I'm just zinging along here. Just look at the fur coat you have on. What is going on with you? I don't know.
Listen, we're having a cold front here. It's like 70. No, I'm just kidding. So
Yeah.
no,
well,
it's rainy. So I'm dressed for that. I'm dressed for the rainy, cold, yucky weather with the humidity of 12,000%. I'm very excited.
well, I wish we'd have a bit of that rain. We're having evil. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Evil?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll send you good thoughts, and we'll send you Trump too. You can take the thoughts and the Trump, and we're good.
Yeah. We could have,
Before we get started, let's just say, don't forget to everybody to subscribe and like. I figure we'll put it at the beginning and the end. Why not? Today we have an artist, and I've looked at her stuff, and there's one. And I told Paul this because we were looking at it before she joined us. That is I like all her stuff, but there's one that I was like, ooh, that's like the best. We'll
you
see
ain't
if
lying. You ain't lying, are you?
no, I'm not lying at all. So we'll see if people can figure it out. So
well, we got Keri Fisher.
right.
She's a Canadian artist, and I said, well, she paints these exotic animals. I just said, well, you can't find anything harder to find in your life. You've got to go to where they are, and
Right.
It's not that kind of. You can't just go paint a bear or a rabbit or something. It's just the things. But no, she paints these exotic animals, and they're gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Yep. And I think it's hard for an artist to find what they like to paint, and try to find enough subject matter. You say, well, I painted this one, and now I got to get 5 more versions of that, or some. How to resource that material? And it's so important to find your own way of finding your material, because that's you. That's your look and how things happen. So let's bring Keri in.
And she also does photography, by the way, which I looked at, which is absolutely gorgeous. And before we bring her in, just for the Star Wars fans, it's not that Keri Fisher. I got very excited when I saw Keri Fisher was coming. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, it was the year month thing. I was like, this is going to be Chewbacca showing up. And then it wasn't, but it's okay. I like her work, so it's good. So let's bring her in. Keri, how you doing?
Hello.
How are you? All right, now I'm going to let you and Paul. I'm good. I'm glad. I'm going to let you and Paul now have this serious dialogue, and I will just disappear and sit and look pretty in the corner. I will be back at the end, and I'll see you. So have a wonderful interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know about we'll see how serious we'll be. Let me just see. We're going to have a great little conversation about your work. I mean, I looked at this stuff and I said, how does this person source all this lovely exotic animals? And that's what we're talking about, mostly exotic animals. I didn't see any snakes, but
no.
Not
yet.
They're not yet. They're too slimy. No, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, we're just sort of, before we get going here, I'd like to hear a little bit about, I guess, your art journey a little bit. Where did you kind of start doing just art in general? And now we're going to tease people with it. I mean, we're talking about painting exotic animals, and these don't just roll around in your neighborhood woods in Canada, So anyway, they're from Africa and such. So let's just start with where you started from. Where did all this inspiration come from?
Well, I mean, I was always really artistically inclined when I was a kid. I was really good at it, and I could recognize immediately that I was good at it. My dad was a painter. He used to oil paint landscapes. I tried that a little bit. Didn't really do it for me. I've always loved wildlife. My bachelor degree was a double major, Earth and Atmospheric Science and Biology. I took a really big liking to mammals.
Yeah.
And I also have a big skull collection. I really enjoy skull morphology.
Okay.
So that really actually aids in, in my art and how I approach it, understanding the morphology of the face and the,
Yeah. Well,
just
anatomy is a big thing, especially with animals. They not only have the correct, posture, the look, the expression, just the gesture of an animal. And if you understand how the animal is built, you know how it can move. So do you kind of just do your drawings from that before you start painting, or do you how
no.
from photos that you take?
Yes. So I take all my own photographs. So I actually became much more into photography about 12, 13 years ago. We started traveling. I realized I liked photography. And then we started to gear our travels towards more wildlife-based travels. So we're talking safaris in different countries and just going to places to see specific wildlife versus going to Europe, seeing, castles and all the amazing architecture doesn't really interest me at this point. So we do a lot of animal-based safaris.
Right. Have you done the Churchill one, the polar bears?
No, actually, we were supposed to get to the far Arctic, about 6 hours straight north from Ottawa last week. That did not work out. So I'm very sad about that. But I
Well,
did get to see a Iqaluit, so that was nice.
yeah.
But yes, polar bears will be in the future, probably in the next year or so.
Yeah. How's the whales? Because they are a mammal. You like to do mammals. Like I
Yep.
think the occasionally, I guess, on those tours that you'll actually see pods of whales will pop up, right next to your boat, almost like
Yes.
if you're in the lucky day, when
Yeah.
you go out and you go looking for whales, they're not around. But
Right.
usually, I don't know how they bait them so they come up and you can pet them on the nose or something. But
We've
I don't-
actually done a couple tours where we swam with whales.
oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a few countries that you can do that, and we've done it 4 times now.
Wow.
And they're long days on the boat. Some of them are 8 hours on the boat all day. You're just literally going up and down the coast. Dominica is a big country, a small island that's a big country for sperm whales. So that's where the sperm whales come and they have their young. And yeah, you can go and swim with them. You need government permits. And
Yeah.
so the tour company takes care of that. You have to pay for them, obviously. It's a
Oh,
big draw, but it's amazing. And I've gotten incredible photographs of them. I haven't painted one yet, though.
yeah. Yeah, I can imagine they can use a fair amount of paint.
Yeah.
Or whiskey do. But it's capturing the nuance of those animals is another thing. It's not just they have a sort of look and a persona. And does it kind of change day to day with that animal? Like one day it looks like one thing, and another day does it look like something different? Like, you know what I mean? You kind of get this. I mean, oh, I'm tired of seeing all these tourists. I look like this today, and the
Yeah.
next day they look like they're actually ready to eat something. So I guess they have expressions, and
Yes.
do you catch them in the docile days, or do you look for those days that they're looking for a bit of expression from them?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I like to just capture the essence of the animal, very calm, very mellow. I think that's nice, but I also really like a little bit of expression too. It depends. If I get good photographs of anything, if I get really good lighting of an animal that's really like hunting or anything like that, that's amazing. If I can get really good ones of that, then I'll do that one.
Yeah, they're not gnawing on a wildebeest or something,
I haven't painted that yet.
in the long grass, it's just something that would look good over the fireplace. Yeah,
Yeah.
but surprisingly, do you look for, I guess, those out of the normal kinds of paintings to do? Other way, a lot of people paint animals. Like,
Mhm.
how do you find your way of painting her? Have you seen that yet in yourself? Like your way of painting other than somebody else? I mean,
I have.
yeah.
Yeah, I find that I don't like doing backgrounds a lot. I have done 2 backgrounds. I did 2 pumas with backgrounds, and I hate both of them, and so nobody will ever see them,
Oh
which is
dear.
too bad because they're lovely. But I'm not happy with them. So I just like to focus on the animal more than anything.
So they're more like portraits. They're the kind of
Yes.
animal portraits in the moment. I mean, you seen the work of Bateman and such,
Yes.
where he's very persnickety, I guess is the word, about the background, the time of day, as to the time of season, and that animal, whether it's in a certain color for the season. A rabbit changes, for instance, colors and different things. But the environment becomes essential to that,
Yeah.
say, little bird or whatever he was painting. No, I was just saying maybe there's things that need to work on. Maybe there's that the backgrounds being they can be simpler. And I think, we'll just get started, see if we can get some stuff. This wild animal that we're going to look at here up front.
Very exotic.
He'll lick you to death, this one. I don't know, but he's just, yeah. Obviously you do portraits for people's and their pets as well. And we're going to lead off with this exotic animal here. Yes, that unique fur coat, his coat, blanket coat. Anyway, I'm making jest. It's he's so, and a great background for this one too. Actually, you want them to pop off the page.
Yes.
It is about this animal. Can you tell us a little bit about this? I guess this was a commission, I'm assuming.
It was, yes. This was for a gentleman's daughter. Her puppy is named Pinot, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And he sent me a few reference photos, and I thought, oh my gosh, this one with the blanket is just adorable. I mean, and I've never done curly hair, neither have I done a blanket, especially a fuzzy blanket. So I thought, I could make this work. We could see if I could do it. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Me, I just block it in with a knife or something. It's not, you can't see if it's fuzzy or not. But painting hair is really a challenge. The nap, the feeling, but not only getting the folds in the blanket, but you're trying to get the feeling of the wool of that blanket a little bit as well, rather than just a matte of tan or beige color. But then you flip to the dog, the curly hair, and you spend hours in paint. So are you painting acrylics or?
So this one's in pastel pencils.
Oh, okay. Pastel.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I find that pastel pencils is where I shine the most.
Mm-hmm.
I can get the most detail in it, and I understand fully how they work, especially on the paper. So it kind of comes more naturally to me than acrylic or colored pencils.
Yeah. Well, you could get that. I've done a little bit of pastel and not enough to point that I continually use it. I guess I found it was the preparation and the final presentation of it. And I found there's always a lot of chalk at the bottom. When I use the chalk pastels, the chalk at the bottom of the page all the time, and it always sounds very sensitive to me. But these are matted and framed, and and they're kept archival as many thousands of years, like anything else. Can be well done. But so what your surface is what? Is it paper that you work on or board or?
Yes, it's paper. So this is sanded paper. So
Okay.
This was, I don't think it was pastel mat. I think this was UArt sanded paper.
Okay.
And this one was 16 by 20.
Nice. That's a nice size. It's not
it's
overly
size.
big, but you can see it from across the room. You can. So if somebody puts it up, it doesn't have to sit next to their table to be able to make out. You put it up on the wall, and it's still. It's a great. It's fun. He's got that little smile on his face. It's just kind of. It's there, and the eyes. Do you find that the eyes are essential? Is that where do you start? Some people have a starting point. Is yours start that way a little bit?
No.
No?
I 100% the eyes are the most important part. I wait to do the eyes until near the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's that's the eyes for me is what pulls the entire thing together. So I need to focus on other things, and then I can do those eyes, and then it just comes alive, and then I just can do the final details.
Yeah, I can see that. You kind of get it's sort of like you start a painting and you try to figure out the the value of the painting you're going to do. You take a certain tone of red or umber or whatever, and you put it on the page, and it's the key for the page, right? It could be, say it was greens or whatever, and it's a green painting. You find where the value of that green and the hue that is correct, and you kind of knock it in, and then you paint around it, kind of a way of getting it. I mean, this one's fairly monochromatic.
Yes.
You're dealing with a very limited palette, even though you probably have 12 pencils in your hand, all like this.
At least, yeah.
and your sharpening device sitting next to you. We're going to get back into, here we go. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here? We're going to go through your pictures. We got about a dozen or so here for people to look at. So we'll move along in the next little while here from everyone's different that we're going to look at here. So can you tell us where we are and what we're doing here? Is this in
Sure.
Africa? Are we in Africa?
Nope. So I was born and raised in southern Saskatchewan, right and around Swift Current.
Okay.
And that's one of the few places in Canada where you can find pronghorn. And so I grew up seeing pronghorn all the time. And now I don't live there anymore, but now I go home and I like to photograph them. And they're beautiful, and not a lot of people know they exist. So it's nice to kind of showcase them a little bit.
Yeah, they've been moving around the province quite a bit. There's been fires and stuff, so
Yes.
they do move a little bit more north or south of Saskatoon. You see a few, but I think it's they're hard to get close to. Do you use any kind of special system other than a big long lens? Excuse me.
Oh yes. Yes, I have a big boy lens. I have two of them. One is a 600 millimeter and one is an 800 millimeter. So each of those systems with the camera body is about 13 pounds. So they're substantial.
Well, it's funny because my one son-in-law hunts. And when you get drawn, it's rare. Like you might as well go buy a lottery ticket, like 1 in a million chances to be drawn for these things. So, and I had to laugh at him one day because he said, "Oh, how do you get close enough for them to come to you?" He says, "Well, he has this fake cow that they put up, and he stand in behind this big. You can buy them at Cabela's, and they're a hunting thing, and they got a little barn door on the side of them. And they lift them up, and they're so curious an animal. They come around them like all the time." So you pretend you're kind of like a cow, and they're curious. They come around to see the cow, and they come really close to see it. And then the hunter flips the little door open, and bang, you can shoot. But for a camera, I think, well, if you're going to try to get close to them, and that works. I think they're about, I don't know what they're worth, but they're at hunting shops. You can buy them. Anyway, running around with your little
that's interesting. Yeah.
Running around with your fake blow up cow that you can.
I might have to try that.
I think it's more like a little sandwich board thing that folds up, and it's got little stands that looks maybe kind of fakey to you and me, but like to antelope running around. They
want to check it out. Sure.
They're very curious, I guess, but they really like to see what's going left and right and all around them. But when there's this because people, if they've ever been in the Swift Current area, they have the tree. I mean, there's literally one tree in the middle, and everybody takes a picture of the tree.
Yep.
And it's a joke, actually. It's kind of funny, but so
the tree actually, if you're traveling and if you want a safe return home, you have to honk 3 times at the tree when you leave, and then you honk 3 times coming back into town.
It's funny, but you realize that how it's just grasslands. It's beautiful in itself, just being the grasslands, and these animals they roam in little herds. I guess they're not normally alone by themselves, but they it's really nice to pick them. Here we go. So this is where is this? And I'm going to ask just tell us a little bit about each one of these images as we go through.
So this is a hoopoe, and I actually took this photograph in India. You can also find this bird species in Africa as well. So I've seen a lot in Africa as well. Yeah, and they're fun little guys. They actually have the feathers at the top. When they get agitated, they can crest it. So they have this fun little mohawk full of spots on their head. I haven't got a photo of that yet, so I haven't been able to paint it.
So you take a picture like this, and then you have your accompanying person to throw a little rock in the air and its little feathers
Yeah.
go up. So you get 2 pictures, bang bang. Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine they're probably they've got a very long bill on them. I don't know. They're probably burrowing, looking for bugs, I guess, and
Yes.
they're fairly long billed. I haven't seen a bird like this. You know, the birds are like just like flowers. There's a million different
There's so
birds,
many.
birds. There's so many things, and they match the environment so well. And you do have backgrounds pretty well. I like that background.
Yeah, that one's not bad. I'm happy with that one.
The soft focus background. There's nothing wrong with that. You think, sometimes that kind of pulls images together, a little bit, but without the focus going to the background, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's very nicely on a tree branch of some nature. But so these were in the wild that you shot?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So they're not in the Toronto Zoo.
No, they're not.
Well, I laugh. We talk about exotic animals, and people say, "Well, how can I find a pronghorn sheep? How can I find a certain bear?" And say, well, most every city has them, not necessarily in the zoo, but Cabela's. You just go to the hunting Cabela's; they have them stuffed. They're all. So my grandkids, I used to say, "Let's go to the zoo."
Yeah.
And they were little Jaffers then, and you see these 2.5, 3 foot long jackfish that are in the tank, that are in the glass behind. They're selling hooks and stuff but right next to them, there's some kind of bear. I mean, huge bear, the scale. He said, where else do you get reference for that material? Just go in there and do your reference material.
That's right.
Why not?
They're not moving around. You can get good angles on it. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. And you can take different shots, and you can build your, I mean, they're stuck in the one pose that they've got them in, but it gives you some scale and reference material for how that animal looks and the actual fur and the coat. And where else are you going to find a mountain sheep? How many people are going to go to the mountains like that and find a mountain sheep?
Yeah, that's right.
There's an exotic Canadian animal you could do. Sharpen your shoe hoofs, and you could go up the mountain in the Rockies and see if you can find that.
Hopefully, and then in the future, hopefully, yeah, that's the plan.
Well, we do have exotic animals, and I guess it's relative to India looking back at Canada and saying, oh, polar bear, that's exotic. So is a whale.
Yeah.
So all the things they do not have is exotic. What they have, they don't see as exotic. They're domestic animals not domestic, but they're localized animals that they have. Yeah. So
yeah, it's true, because actually, we had an Australian couple stay with us a couple days, some of our friends, and they were so enamored with red squirrels. They could not get enough of red squirrels.
yeah, we can't either. Please take them. Yeah, that's okay. We deal with in Saskatchewan. We have a number of different squirrels. More south, they're black squirrels, but they're more of a red squirrel in the north, and they are everywhere in your cabin. Oh my goodness, they'll tear a place apart, woodsheds and everything. But they're kind of fun to have around. They're not going to eat you.
Yeah, luckily.
Well, this guy is just straight head on. Is he ready to charge, or he's just eating? I think he's curious. I think this is such a very large mammal on land mammal. I mean, relative to scale to a whale in the water, you take a rhinoceros. I mean, how close were you to these animals when you're shooting them? I mean, you're shooting with a long lens, but.
Yes. So this one we were particularly close to, because this was at a rehab facility. So they had a couple different rhinos there, and we got to go in the truck, and we got to get pretty close to them. So probably about 15 feet away. So that was pretty exciting, a little bit humbling, definitely. But I was able to get some really good head-on shots of those ones.
Yeah, no, it's a classic animal. I mean, and it's very ancient, and it's just its demeanor. It's sort of like the hippopotamus a little bit too, right? They're just these big, bulky animals. Elephant as well. They're just not as friendly as an elephant might seem to me, this fellow. But do they have this odor? Do they have an odor to them when you're
They
actually?
do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they defecate a lot, and
Okay.
it's very barnyard-esque. Yeah.
Yeah, they're noxious. Okay,
Yeah.
noxious. Well, it was
They're
just
noxious.
funny because you don't get that across when you see the paint or the drawing, and again, is it about a 1620 size or larger?
This one is an 11 by 14.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is done in acrylic paint.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
there you go. You can use a brush. I know.
Yeah.
And who said you can't paint backgrounds? You got that.
This one was interesting, actually, because I didn't intend to paint on this one. I was experimenting with acrylic pouring.
Oh, okay.
And I did this one and I thought, oh my God, that kind of resembles fire, but also kind of, what I saw in South Africa when we were there. And I thought, if I just stick a rhino in there, it might look really neat. And so that's kind of how it came to life. So
Well, I think
it was
risk taking is essential, I think, for an artist. I mean, I think if you don't do that, then all your work looks like somebody else's. And when you find that you can take a background and say, oh, this would go really well with this other subject that I have, that becomes you. I mean, your look. Nobody else is doing that, right? It's sort of finding your way as to. So if you put all these portraits on a wall, I could say, well, this all looks like Keri Fisher's work. You get a look and a feel to it. It's not abatement. It's kind of a way of doing it. So backgrounds don't have to be there. I mean, but the texture, I can feel that in the skin. And I think
that's what I was aiming for.
Well, I've heard it's a little bit like sandpaper. I mean,
Yes.
the skin on them is tough. It's tough. But and I've seen have you got some of the ones, the side head view with the horn, the jaw that sticks out? Yeah.
Yep, I've got some of those photos. Haven't painted them yet, but yes, definitely.
They make a good stamp, I think.
Yes.
Very good stamp. I know somebody I would like to stick on that horn. Anyway. This is Stephen's favorite. I just had to tell everybody.
Okay.
He loves his fuzzy little lion. Well, it's so he's like he's in the photo studio with the white seamless in behind him, and he's just sitting in there getting a pose.
There's
what
actually
is it, the soft edge, in this one.
Yes. So this one started. I didn't intend to finish this one. It was just going to be an experiment. And so it started going so well. I was like, oh, well, maybe I could actually finish this one. It could be a piece. So I started on the left-hand side with the body and I moved up towards the head. So that's why I started it not thinking I was going to finish it. And then once I got to the head, I was like, oh, no, this is working. And then I just kind of didn't want to retouch it.
Yeah, so it didn't have to bleed off to the left or anything off the page. Yeah, it was just because I know some of the other ones. I guess part of it is just the design of the placement, like on the page. Everything doesn't have to be dead center in the middle of the page, and things like that. But this one is quite different from the other pieces. It's very photography like in soft edge photos, like especially really old photos. A lot of times they'd have those little. They're not, I guess part of it was the lens. The lens wasn't corrected for the outside edges, and they weren't in the early days. They were just a little soft on the outside edges, sharp in the middle, but just the way the lens would ground, and it would leave the images a little soft on the outside edge. That's what I'm assuming anyway. But he looks very content. This one, he's had something to eat already, and he's not going to eat you. And,
the story with this one's really funny. When you said content, that's exactly it, because he had just been mating with a female for about 12 hours. So he was really tired, and he still had another day to go. So he sat there and he
doesn't look impressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could
You
be a
just
lot of
sound-
really bad one-liners going on here, but I'm not going to say anything about him. Good for him.
yeah. He did his deed.
Well, yeah. Anyway, good to know all this background information. Though. Yeah, yeah. She's not quite as content as him. There we go. So this is what I mean. We're, coming off of the page. I mean, love the little hump on the back. Like it's just there's a really nice flow. There's in the neck, the nice little wrinkles that are in the neck. It's more than just blah. Here's the color, and here it's really in the hair and the gesture. And there's that little crinkle in the neck just tells me he's turned his head a little bit. Just
Mhm.
little small little nuances that are there, and I do love the background. It's like that warm evening light, in the background, and it's all about the animal. This one really works really nicely. I just love the symmetry of the horns, and it's got a really nice, really, really nice feeling to it. Again, about 11-14 size again, or probably.
Yes, this one is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love, this is a kudu. One I took, I think we're in Botswana for this one. And I just love their horns. They're incredible. And he had such great light on his face. And I knew immediately, I was like, well, I'm going to paint this. It's crazy not to. So
is this pencil and acrylic, or is it?
this is straight up pastel pencil, and this is pastel matte paper.
So how do you keep it from smudging? Like, how do you keep your hand elevated enough
Yes.
to get on working on this?
Yeah, I actually make my own risers for my table. So as a side thing, I also just do a little bit of woodworking. So I make my own little kind of wrist holders that come off the table. So I'm never touching the paper.
So do you use a malt stick as well at times, or do you know? Do you know what a malt?
No.
Yeah, you know what a malt stick is, though, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But in painting, you can rest your arm on that bar a little bit as well. But I always found when I did that, the little ball of I made one. The little ball of tape ended up sticking on my work somewhere else anyway.
Oh no.
It ends up getting dirty, and oh god, it was just like. But I don't get that finicky about stuff anymore. I just stand back and whack, paint it in.
That's right. Yeah.
I say that, but I try my best, just like everybody else. But this one really has a really nice feeling. It's got a really nice. I guess it's elegance. That's the word I'm kind of looking for. There's an elegant look to this thing, and I just love this big gray mass of the side of the body, and this nice little head. I've seen those on walls just like that. That head just stuck on the wall, but this one has skin on it. But it's yeah. So you have skulls hanging in your studio as well?
I don't have any big ones. The biggest one I have a cheetah and a cougar. And those are the biggest ones that I have right now. Mostly I have a lot of smaller ones. I have a lot of small cats, mostly mammals, a few birds, and a couple reptiles.
They're dust collectors. That's what you
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I've got a jackalope on my wall.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was one of my friends. He made it for me, the jackalope.
Yeah, I actually grew up, my dad was a big hunter, so we had a lot of pronghorn deer, moose, bear, stuffed things in the house. So,
well, they look good in the studio, and my wife doesn't want them in the house, so they're in the studio. The few that I have one. I guess it's a cow horn. A friend of mine, she has bison and buffalo heads, like old ones.
oh wow.
I've borrowed them over the years and do a little drawing from them and take them back to her. But she's out on a ranch. But they're nice to have around. I mean, just to draw. I mean, and when she has them, she puts them out on the top of an old shed roof and lets the sun bleach them. So the sun bleaches them white, and I get them into the studio, and they're really nice, different subject matter to draw than just human form or from photographs. I mean, you can actually see it and touch it and look at that, to understand that animal a little bit. It kind of connects you. If you're an artist that likes doing that kind of thing, it connects you to things. You don't pet this one very much, but anyway.
No.
Oh, his name was his name Tony. Yes.
His name was not Tony. His name is actually MV3. And this is the name of the tiger. This was in Kanha National Park in India. So this was a very well-known tiger that we got to spend some time with, and it was really nice. And I was able to get some really great photos.
Wow. He's not pettable, though, I don't think, right?
Nope. We try to stay away a little further away from those ones.
Yeah. So do you have to shoot through a fence for these kind of things?
Nope. India's done a really great job of incorporating like ecotourism into the camps and realizing that tigers, if they're alive, people pay a lot of money to see them. So they make these giant national parks now, and they have these trails going through. You're in a truck like any safari jeep you find in Africa, and you just hope you get lucky enough for one of them to come through the forest, cross the road, or follow you down the road. And this one was pretty close. We got about 20 feet from it. So
they don't feed them from the vehicle at all. No baiting of any kind. Nope. Well, so many people think, oh, let's just bait them and they'll come out. And I said, well, it'd be the worst thing ever, because you're dependent on that as well. But I know hunters, they do a lot of bait, and I'm not a real fan of that. But bear hunting a lot of times is all bait. They bait for bear. But no, I just love it. It's really, it's a classic piece. Like just the texture of the design of the hair and the skin and the animal, the size of the head on a cat, to realize a cat would be that big. Well, it's a big cat. I mean,
big cat.
Really big, like, and they weigh a fair 300-400 pounds
at least. Yeah, these are the biggest cats in the world, so it's they're insane. To see their head up, at a distance, up close at a distance, is extremely humbling.
Yeah, I think 7-8 feet long. They're a big cat. Yeah, you don't want to be caught alone with those. There you go. Not. Yeah. Again, a beautiful bird. It feels Chinese to me. I think it's the bridge. I think it's the bridge and that background. It feels like a beautiful Chinese drawing or painting. I think it's got a. So is this a heron of such?
This is a blue heron. Yeah, this was actually a wedding gift that I had just recently completed a couple months back. It was to complement a piece they had already had on their wall of a different blue heron. It was very old school naturalist type of print that they had. And so I thought, okay, I want to keep it relatively simple. They would always see these blue herons. They live in Washington, D.C. And so they would walk through Rock Creek State Park and they would see blue herons. And that's where this bridge is. So I decided to incorporate it.
Yeah. So they send you photos. They send you photos of what to work with. Is that the reference material?
I actually had blue heron photos because we do get them around where we live. So I already had a couple. So I just used one of those.
Okay. So they said what they wanted. They wanted to go with this other piece. So did they send you a sample of their other piece so you knew what you're doing?
Yes. Yeah. I saw the other piece, and then I told her I would just design her something that would complement it. And she was like, yeah, great. And so I did.
So how did those contacts happen? How did that contact happen with that person? Did you just find
that one's my husband's cousin. So we were going to the wedding anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's understanding that a lot of times the connection is between an artist and the commission is only once removed. A lot of times they're friends of a friend, or they're those kind of things. And we figure out, how do commissions go about? And you say, well, a lot of times it's not necessarily your direct family that is commissioning you, but I know sometimes there are cold calls where somebody comes out of the blue and says, I would like one done, but it's based on your portfolio, right? It's based on what am I going to expect back from this person, because I know your style and how you do your work. And it's like, can I trust that person to do what I want them to do with my precious little dog, or can they capture a blue heron the way I'm seeing it in my mind? I can never do that. I get on a tangent and all of a sudden, like, nope, he's going to have this, and it goes south in about 2 seconds because I'll deviate. Say, no, I'm having too much fun. I'm going down this road.
Yeah.
And so I don't do a lot of commissions. I say, no, if you see what you like, there it is. If you don't, no,
Mhm.
done. And a lot of artists, it's just easier to do because I know it's frustrating for a lot of artists, very frustrating to try and do something specifically for a client that they have in their mind what they want.
Mhm.
And it's really, some artists are really good at being able to pull that information out of that person to get closer to what they want. And some artists are just saying, nope, it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it's really turned into porridge. The commission, and there's a frustration and all the other things that go along with something that the artist's not happy with and the client's not happy with. So it's something to, is there stages that you go through in commissions to make it more successful? What do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, for sure. I'll get, usually it's people that come across my website or profiles on different other hosting websites. And they'll say, I really want to get, for example, my pet done, whatever. And I'll say, okay. And I'll outline what I need is good reference photos. And I'm going to be very honest with you. If the reference photos aren't good, then I'm not going to be able to do a good job. So definitely that's the first step, is to get the photos. And then after that, I'll be very clear with what I'm going to do and say, is this okay for you? Is this what you're looking for? If not, I would suggest, finding maybe somebody else, or,
Yeah.
it just depends. It's a lot of communication helps.
So do you have other artists that you refer, like a list of other artists that you might refer somebody to, a friend artist or somebody that?
I gotta be honest, I don't know a lot of people around here, other artists wise, but there are some that I do enjoy that I'll send the person over to that person's website or give them their email.
I think that's generous of an artist to understand what they want to do or what their capabilities are or the expectations of a client. And it could be budget even, and saying, you know what,
Yep.
that's not enough money for me, or never too much money, but it's not enough money for you.
Right?
Oh, that's too much money. I can't take that much. I'm sorry. But I think it's generous of an artist to say, I'll refer this other artist, maybe a more junior artist, and or they just work for a little bit less money, or they just like to do certain things in a different way and maybe quicker, or
Mhm.
maybe they use paint instead of pastel pencil, and they're looking for something in oil or something in acrylic rather than in pencil. So
That's right. Yeah.
that could be the whole factor right there, whether they want it in a certain and size. I'd love to see some of these earlier pieces, you know, 30 by 30, like big, you
Yeah.
know, which have you thought about doing something like over the
I
top?
have. Yeah, I have. I'm not ready to take that leap to that size yet. I have to feel comfortable. I started off doing really small ones, like 8 by 10s. And so I kept going with those until I felt comfortable to be like, okay, maybe I can do something bigger.
Yeah.
And so then I, went up to 11 14s and then 16 by 20s. And I like 16 by 20s. It doesn't take forever, but it's still always a challenge.
You need to get some of those wide wedgy pencils, they can,
Yes.
the little fine ones. Well, a full sheet a lot of times is 2230. So,
Yeah.
You're kind of doing half sheets, a lot of times,
Mhm.
or thereabouts. So yeah, no, it's a thing you work up to. Here we go. This guy is on the hunt.
Yes. Yes, he was.
Definitely
uh,
sees something.
yes. This little guy, we saw him in Tanzania, and we did see a hunt. It was unsuccessful, but he was just, fantastic, right? Just a little cat. You don't get to see them very often. We got to spend about 20 minutes with him too, which was really nice.
Yeah. No, what is this animal called?
This, you know what? I just tried to think about it and it's escaping me right now. So,
Okay. No, that's fine. I'm just curious as to what it is. I love again, the fur is really indicative of that. I feel like it's a cat fur. And I think it's He has a very inquisitive look in his face. So you've really captured that nicely. I think it's just it's a beautiful piece, And I think it's, the backgrounds and that, it kind of complements the animal a little bit, the kind of looking, it's really made the stare important. Like you're
Mhm.
like, I think of even in a drawing, you should always have questions that you're asking. What's it looking at? Why is he so curious? Like all those little things in your mind that make you want to keep coming back to that piece of work. Otherwise, you're putting it up on the wall if you've purchased it, and you go, why do I like that painting or drawing every day, right? And you go and look at, what's he looking at today? And it kind of has that. If anybody is a cat person, they cannot really understand uh, the gesture and the look of the cat that maybe sees something that you normally wouldn't see, right? It's very, very sharp eyes. So it has a very, very inquisitive looking. And it's very simply done. And again, I like bringing it off the page. It's the design of it in where half of the sheet of paper is background.
Yeah.
It's kind of important to the whole design of the page. I think it's important, uh, for that feeling. Otherwise, if it was really tight, his eyes wouldn't connect to um, the space as easily because you've got left this large space open, which means it opens my mind up as to what's in there. Like there's something. It's not just 8 by 10
Yeah.
vertical piece, right? I guess I'm rambling on, but I think it's I kind of I like to see what I see in the pieces, and the work is different than a lot of other stuff that we're showing. I mean, we've had domestic animals and other things on the show, but it's nice to see exotics that we're doing here. Yeah, here's an exotic. All right.
Very exotic, this one.
And everybody goes, "Oh no, not him. He's back in Florida."
Trouble.
Yeah, he's a voracious little animal. This little rodent, I guess they almost are. But
Yeah.
again, it's just the gesture of them. Normally, they're sitting there holding it with their little hands, right? But he's bit off more than he can chew there.
Yeah, we have a lot of these around the house.
Yeah.
They're so interesting. And this was one of my smaller ones. This was an 8 by 10. So
Yeah.
this was really small. And I just wanted to experiment with textures in this one, which is why I was like, he's got to have a walnut. I've got to try to do this walnut. So
So when you get into doing the hair, so is there a base color you lay down first, like generally in an area, and then do you work darker to lighter?
it actually depends on the medium. So with pastel, the lights can overlay on the darks and still show through really well. Colored pencil, it's the opposite. You have to start with the lights and then work down to the darks because the lights won't show on top of the darks. So, and then acrylics, you can just keep layering it as you wish. But
Right.
this is pastel. So this, I just lay down the darks first,
Mhm.
and then I'm able to build the lights on top of that.
Right. Yeah. I just kind of, yeah. No, I'm just curious as to other people that are looking at what might be, you know, how to do this process. Do you do workshops as well, or?
I don't. I was thinking at some point that might be of interest to me. Right now, I'm still trying to perfect my own methods.
Mhm.
So I feel like I shouldn't teach unless I know 100% each time what I'm doing.
Well, I find that with teaching, if you find that you're at a plateau in your work, where you say, I'm not growing, I'm not understanding, I can't move to the next stage,
Mhm.
go and teach for a couple of sessions somewhere. Um, you'll find that after teaching, it opens up a brand new area because you've had to go back and explain to people the processes of how things are done, and your mind understands that even more clearly. It
Right.
also
Okay.
it also picks out the sections that you like to talk about or the sections that you need more experience learning about. And so all of a sudden to go and teach it, because people will ask questions and you go, oh, well, I never thought about that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
This is how you do that. And it clarifies with your mind in your own work. And I think it's generous that you can share that with people, but it's also, it's about you as well. So you get back out at least as much or more when you teach a little bit. I'm not saying go overboard teaching, but
Hmm.
it's almost to the point where you kind of, it's needed from time to time for re-energizing what you're doing. And like I said, if you've kind of plateaued where you feel like I'm not quite growing enough there, how do I
Right.
how do I explain that to people, how it's done or why or how I do my work? Like I like that you take your own photographs, which is a
Hmm.
whole other design thing and a lighting thing. And rather than taking or snipping out of a National Geographic magazine and trying to copy that image, you say, well, that's a whole other thing. Like, how do you make it your own? Like, how do you make it that relationship between you and that animal? Because there is, while you're in that safari,
Yep.
there is a moment that you're in when you're taking photographs that you're not focused on who's sitting left and right of you. You're focused on you and that animal. And if that animal turns
That's
and
right.
looks at you, you go, oh dear, I made a connection.
That's exactly it. Yeah. The
Yeah.
connection is everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those things are they're kind of fun things to see. Oh, look at this guy. I've always loved the horns. Like there's something so Greek about it. There's
Mhm.
the very classic. Oh, I don't need that. Sorry. I should have turned that off. Call him back later. uh, anyway, back to our sheep. So this one was where? Where did you shoot
Yeah,
this one?
this was over. We were in, I think, Jasper this time.
Oh,
And
right.
so
Yes.
I took photographs of this guy, this little herd crossing the road. I as well love their horns. They're so interesting and they're
Yeah.
really hard to paint.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but the horns are very African. I mean, they feel
Mhm.
very, most African animals that have horns have ridges like growing lines, growing ridges
Mhm.
on their horns. And they're, so the sheep. So is this considered a pronghorn sheep?
No, this is uh, just a sheep that you would
Oh,
find,
is it
goat that
called?
you'd find in Jasper,
Yeah, I won't leave
BC,
me.
Alberta.
It's, is it called then a doll sheep? Is that what it is? Something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And this
And
was actually
that's the two sheep I know.
yeah. Then this was actually my first acrylic painting. So
Oh, okay.
this is my introduction to acrylic. So
Hmm.
it went okay.
No, it's a really beautiful portrait. I love the curl of the horn because the horn really brings your eye back in.
Mhm.
It's a lovely portrait, and I look at all these. They are portraits. How big is this one again? We're gonna.
This one's quite small. This one is, I think it was a 12 by 16.
Oh, okay. So you're not working with great big brushes. You just got to.
No,
You
tiny
got
little things.
three hair brush.
Yes, pretty
Oh
much.
my
Yep.
goodness! I tell my students, whenever I have a workshop, throw those three hair brushes away. You get it.
Sometimes I'll even cut the brushes so that they only have like 5 hairs on them if I need
Oh,
a lot of detail. Yeah.
yeah. Well, when you're painting really fine hair
Mhm.
in a hyper realistic manner, they are needed. I mean, I've seen artists like I don't think Bateman paints like that. He paints little bigger brushes, for instance, but he'll get the nap in a certain way. But feathers are really really fine as well.
Mhm.
You're dealing with that. But I love the design of this piece. I mean, I love how it comes off the bottom of the page, and it's really about this beautiful head. Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's looking right at you, this fella.
Yep. This one was a female leopard in Tanzania. She actually had her mate with her, so they were courting each other at this point. And like creeps, we sat there and watched them. And she stared right into my camera. It was amazing. It was, her eyes were incredible. And I knew I had to paint them. So,
Are they
and this
green?
is also, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
the green-
She had a
green
little bit differently colored eyes in the male. It was nice. And this is also an acrylic.
Yeah. So it's yeah, you can feel the stare. You know, you can just feel that. Yeah, you're in my zone a little bit. Well, you know, yeah, they get used to, I guess, to the safaris. They get used to the people coming around, but they got their daily life that they try to go about doing their thing. And say, oh God, we got to put these tourists again. They're back. They kind of make, like, they always remind me of the Larson cartoons. You know, the leopards and gazelles and things, and people that are involved in there, and they're always kind of. It's just funny, just the humor that can come out of. Why are you back here again? Like, it's just like this is our space. Oh, there's a bear. You got a
There's
bear.
a bear. Yep.
Yeah.
So this one is my most recent one that I finished. This one's pastel. And this is going to be on UArt sanded paper as well. And this is 16 by 20.
Oh, nice. So do you show your work? Where do you show your work other than on your websites and Instagram and stuff?
I like to enter competitions. I do really well at those. So those are a big, those actually, I get a lot of money from those. I win a lot. So it's nice.
Well, that's nice. That's good. To
But I don't have like a specific gallery that I show at or anything.
Yeah. No. Oh, there's the old bear himself. There you go.
There you go. The killjoy is back. So, just to let you guys know, the animal you couldn't describe, I think it's called a serval, and
Thank you.
SERVAL. You're welcome. And because I took a picture and I sent it over to AI, and I go, "What is this?" And it said, "It's this animal." I was like, "Cool, look how smart I am today." And now I know why I like the lion painting. So there you go. So yeah, that's why I liked it. So I didn't
It's a
even
good
know the story,
backstory.
and that's perfect. So and mount that right there. Anyway, phenomenal stuff. I mean,
Thank you.
absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, I cheated before because I looked at everything and then went to your website. So now the questions I ask the artists: what do you charge? Not for a commission, but like your paintings that you showed us. Like, what's the range? If somebody sees this wherever they live and they want it, what do you charge for your paintings?
Okay, so the ones that were shown today, those
Right.
range from the squirrel would be 500.
Right, because it's a squirrel. No, I'm just kidding. So,
It's relatively small, it's
okay.
fine. And then they go up to like something like the bear would be about 2,000.
Okay, and that's Canadian, everybody. So if you're in the EU, it's free. They just pay for shipping. And in America, depending on where the dollar is that day, it could go either way. And there you have it. Very cool. And you ship worldwide, I take it.
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Okay, there you go. So that's all our UAE fans that watch the show.
Excellent. Well, it's good
That's
to
cool.
hear what exotic is about. I mean, we don't see a lot of exotics. Steven's kind of exotic. He's from a different country.
Totally different. So, but no, it was phenomenal. I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. I enjoyed every one of them, and it was sort of like that is very, like you said, we don't get a lot of those type of artists on the show. So just to see that was just like very cool.
Thank
And
you.
we'll have your website below so you can see Keri's pictures of her when she was on Star Wars with Chewbacca and everything. And you'll also see some wildlife as well as what she's painted. There's a nice one of Mark Hamill there. You'll really like it. And George Harris and Lucas, all of them.
That's right.
So good. That'll be good. And here's what's funny. Someone's not going to be paying attention. They'll be listening to this in the background. They're going to run to the website and go, Keri Fisher, even though she passed away like 5 years ago, and be looking at this and be like, oh, wait, that's not Star Wars. But it is what it is.
Didn't know she was that talented. Yeah, didn't know she was that talented.
There you go. Yeah, you come back from the dead. It's awesome. But no, your work is exquisite. And please come back when you have more stuff. Because it'd be cool to see that, and that'll be very nice. So
yeah, the exotic northern animals. Yeah, that would be love to see that.
More squirrels, I guess, and pigeons or whatever you guys have up there. Yeah, more squirrels, please.
The
Do a whole thing.
Pigeon. Yes.
Exotic.
Anyway, it was lovely to see, and great talking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It is a
and
pleasure.
we will get you exposed a little bit. We'll put you
Whoa, whoa,
Or
whoa! It's not
send
that
it
type of show.
to our social media as well. So we'll give you a little push that way. Yeah.
Thank you
There
so
you
much.
go. And once
Yeah,
again,
it was fun.
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we'll. Oh, good. And we'll see everybody next Thursday with another artist that doesn't know what they're in for. I mean, another artist that we're going to exploit. I mean, show their work. I always get this confused. Don't forget to subscribe and like. We're glad you had a good time. Keri, once again, thank you so much. Her website's below if you want to see her work or purchase anything. And that's it, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Cheers.
Have a good week.